All right, good afternoon, YouTube and followers of JT. Been a minute since we've done a video. Just been charging hard, trying to keep up with everybody's orders. So if you've ordered our parts and you're using them, I'm deeply appreciative of that. Please leave some feedback if you got time. Wanted to talk a little bit more about some fuel system stuff. I happen to have an array of parts here that's going out to a customer in Australia later this afternoon. But since I had all these parts that I typically use, when I do one of these cars, I figured I would talk about it a little bit more, give you a little more detail. First of is this 4 Innovations F2i regulator. I did a video on why I do not like aeromotive regulators, so I'll do a quick showcase of this part. You can see this thing's physically kind of big. I mean, it does have -8 inlets and outlets, so it's bigger in size, but you got space to mount these. I mean, these are what we use on all these cars. This regulator sells for $219. Not a dealer on this yet, but we will be working on that throughout the year. The reason I like this thing, if you look into the bottom, you can see a stainless steel hardened valve seat, and there is a ceramic check ball, meaning this thing does not beat itself up like the aeromotives do. Those have a tendency, that's just a steel ball, you know, that seats on an aluminum hole in the bottom housing. With the Yamahas especially, 3-cylinder, if you're running a big injector like a 1700 or a 2600, you know, you get some pretty violent injection pulses, and there's not many of them because it's only 3 cylinders, so they're not, you know, it's a lot choppier than it would be, say, if it was on an 8-cylinder engine. Those pulses, you know, basically cause this regulator to have to bounce around in here, and it's maintaining pressure. But on the aeromotives, you know, what happens is the ball ends up just beating the aluminum up to the point where it doesn't seal anymore, and they fail pretty quickly. I've seen them, I've had several that were not good out of the box, but I've seen others that last maybe a couple 100 miles on a Yamaha if you're using it. So this one will not do that. Again, ceramic ball, hardened valve seat. The other advantage is the diaphragm that's in the top here, which is your pressure reference. So there's a spring and there's a diaphragm. Your boost pressure comes in. That's what, you know, adds pressure to the same side as the spring. And that's what raises your fuel pressure, 1 pound of fuel pressure to every pound of boost, which is necessary on a turbo car. This diaphragm housing and this valve body at the bottom are separated, which I can't really see in this video, but the shaft comes through there. You can kind of see it through a seal, then down into this valve body. That is a nice, really nice way to do that. The problem with like the aeromotive, again, is it just has a diaphragm here, and on the bottom of the diaphragm is a ball, and that's directly inside this valve body. So what will happen is if that diaphragm fails, all of a sudden you got fuel up in this part of the housing here, which is then going to go out of your boost reference port and more than likely get pumped into the engine and whatever port this is connected to on your throttle bodies. And, you know, in an extreme case, you could hydrolock a cylinder. So no good. This one will not do that. So this is my go-to. These things have been rock solid. Good for a 150 horsepower fuel system, all the way to a, you know, on a Yamaha, maybe a 800 horsepower fuel system. And if you're getting crazy with it, you know, this is a really good regulator. So same price as the aeromotive too. I mean, that's what gets me. This thing's $219. So just keep that in mind. 4 FOUR Innovations, and this is their F2i regulator. So I'm sorry, FORE, it says it right there. Anyway, check it out online. I don't sell this. I sourced this from my Australian customer. I'm trying to get him all his parts in one box. So we got him one of these, but I mean, I didn't make any money on it selling it to him for the same price I paid full retail for it, but just helping him out. So anyway, there's that. Next thing I would like to talk about is this fuel rail. So this is a brand new part. I don't have one of these on my car yet, but I will here shortly. This rail is manufactured by Injector Dynamics. They just came out with this thing. This is hands down the nicest rail you're gonna find for your Yamaha. This thing is right in that $200 price range. You can get it in a bunch of different configurations, including fuel lines and everything you want if you need the whole fuel system from them. injectordynamics.com, check them out. Again, I paid full retail for this. I'm just helping my buddy out in Australia. Okay, so we'll talk about why this rail is superior. I mean, obviously, aesthetically, you know, this thing started out as a big piece of aluminum. There's a lot of machine work in this. It's a nice looking part. It's not just a block with holes drilled in it. This is where it really comes down to being a nice setup. Now this has no spacers. So it actually has, the standoff is machined into it. This uses your OEM bolt, not an aftermarket bolt. So it's very solid, very OEM fit and finish. There's no spacers for the rail, the injectors. One piece, uses stock length Yamaha injector. You know, we run ID injectors in all of our cars. This would work with any stock length YXZ injector. You know, -6 ORB in and out. Good for really any kind of fuel system. I mean, you can put a dampener on one side, you can run a single line, you can run the other port as a return line. I think you can buy it as a single line setup from them, but you'll have to check out the website. No hardware. You know, some of these other ones, the mounts are bolted to the bottom, and they might have a spacer for the rail. So just a lot more parts. This thing is one piece, you know, 100% correct injector angle. I mean, this is very well engineered. These are available now, injectordynamics.com. I wouldn't use anything but this moving forward. I mean, I've had good success with RPM's rail. I won't talk badly about that because those have worked great for us in the years past. But I think Injector Dynamics really stepped it up on this one. Aesthetically too. I mean, every one of these rails you buy from anybody is about 200 bucks. So if you want one that's made by a fuel system company, this is all they do, and obviously they have spent a lot more money to manufacture this thing, you know, with all this intricate machine work, and obviously it's a bigger piece of aluminum to start life. I think this is your best bang for the buck, and probably safest. You know, there's not a bunch of parts bolted together or a bunch of spacers or all this other stuff that could potentially come loose or leak or, you know, have some sort of an issue. This is going to work just as good as the OEM part. Obviously, just larger flow, set up for a bigger fuel system. So injectordynamics.com. I'm going to work on trying to be a dealer for this part as well, but wanted to show you that. All right, and then the other item we use on all of these cars is this radium fuel filter. This is part number 200220-03. This is a 10 micron stainless steel element in here. Really nice part, billet aluminum. I mean, anything you get from radium is, you know, top shelf. I like this filter, and then to mount it, I like their heatsink mount. Which you can see, this thing is got the fins built into it. You know, this filter slides into that, and you clamp it in with these screws. And this bolt pattern that's on here is the exact width of your passenger side engine mount. So that's typically when I do one of these, I mount it there. It's out in the open, gets good airflow. This is a good proven way, especially if you have a big fuel pump like a Deutschwerks 400 or something, even if 425 or 550 Walbro, or if you're going brushless, you know, I run this one on my BKS 1000 brushless pump. A pump that's cycling a lot of fuel. You don't have a lot of fuel volume in your tank, so it's recycling that fuel rapidly, which does heat it up. This is a really good way to add a fuel cooler without having an extra part, and it does 100% work. We've data logged it, and it gets the job done. So the bracket, I don't remember the part number for the bracket, but that's on Radium's website or Summit, or any of these guys sell this. It is -10, so you have to get a -10 reducer to a number 6 or number 8, whatever size line you're running. And then you guys have seen our fuel pumps. This one's going out to the same customer in Australia. This is a 39mm mount assembled with an an AEM 340 liter per hour gasoline pump. This is like a race gas car, bigger power, plenty of pump for gasoline. This one is 1000-50, I believe is the part number. One of the best pumps you can get for the money. These things are about $100, and you know, this will support probably close to 500 horsepower on gasoline if you could get there, you know, on VP or one of these high-end fuels. We run a lot of ethanol in most of the builds we do, so we got bigger fuel pumps and bigger injectors. But if race gas is your thing, you know, this is a good way to go. Sending unit -6 swivel fittings on the top for your lines. There's our high amperage connector. This one, he bought the pump, so I just put it together for him. This has got the PTFE lines in here. And then, I don't know if I've ever showed this part, but this is our pre-built harness we sell for our sending unit. All coiled up here, but this thing is got everything you need for your high amperage pump circuit. So this plugs into our sending unit. This end connects to your factory wiring. You got this long lead here with a fuse that you route up to your battery box labeled. That goes to the positive terminal of your battery. And then there's a chassis ground on this end that goes to the ground on your transmission. And this relay just mounts on the tube on the passenger side of the car, you know, right below the shifter console. Just clamps on and, you know, kind of tucks in there, but everything's to length. Take you about 5 minutes to put this thing in. Then you are providing your fuel pump with the proper current. This is a 25 amp fuse in this guy, but these are good for, I think, well, the relay is good for 40. 25 is about what it's set up for. So this is any of your AEM pump, Walbro 450 or 525, Deutschwerks 400, which is the big one we use for ethanol. This gets proper current to the pump, you know, 12 gauge wire. You don't get much out of your factory wiring. So I see a lot of guys wire an aftermarket pump right to their factory positive and negative that was feeding their stock pump. That's, I want to say it's 16 gauge wire, and it's a 10 amp circuit, which it works sometimes it doesn't. The problem with it is that where it never works is that you are not supplying enough current to your pump. So maybe you put this nice pump in there and you still got fueling issues, you know, it won't build pressure, you don't get proper rising rate under boost, or, you know, you're battling all these issues. It's mainly because the power that's required for that pump to do its job is not available through the factory wiring. So quick and painless external harness. You can run your Deutschwerks 400, which is probably the most power hungry pump I sell. You can run that with your factory stator. You do not need an alternator kit to make your fuel pump work properly. Just have to have the proper current available for it to work properly. So that's that part. Plug and play harness. Drop-in sending unit. If you want one built, just order it with the pump. And then I'm working on becoming a dealer for these items. I don't know about Radium yet. Definitely Injector Dynamics. I mean, let's take another look at this rail. Like, this is the nicest Yamaha rail you're gonna find ever. I'm excited about how nice this thing is. So I wouldn't expect any less. I mean, if you've ever used anything from Injector Dynamics, it is always spot on. So anyway, just figured I'd give you guys an update and do a video so we can get it up on the page, and hopefully we see you out at the sand dunes. So talk soon. Bye.